From the Hussman School of Journalism and Media at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, covering the full range of Tar Heel athletics. This is Sports Extra.
No team has ever been number one in the preseason poll and then failed to make the 64-team tournament. Good morning and welcome to Sports Extra. I'm Olivia Mundorf.
But unfortunately, that could happen this year. I'm Jasmine Baker. Thanks for joining us. On Sunday, the men's basketball team traveled to Raleigh to take on the NC State Wolfpack, hoping to take a critical step needed to avoid that fate. The Heels struggled to set their pace offensively, shooting only 35% from the field. Guard Caleb Love led the Heels in scoring with 20 points, along with grabbing 5 rebounds. The big man Armando Bacot wasn't far behind him, scoring yet another double-double with 16 points and 14 rebounds. The Heels were able to keep the game close up until late in the second half, when State took over and just couldn't be stopped. Smith seals the game with a fast break alley-oop to Joyner, icing the cake. The Heels fall to the 22nd ranked Wolfpack, 77-69. Here's basketball analyst Landon Elliott with the disappointing details.
Jasmine, we've all seen what's been going on with Carolina basketball. Losing. The team is frustrated, and the fans are too. The reason to losing could be simpler than what meets the eye. The biggest problem I see right now with this team is no one is getting back on defense. A wise Sports Extra colleague once told me, defense wins championships. But in this case, lack of defense fails to win quad one games. So let's see exactly where the defense struggled and how the Wolfpack managed to break down the Heels. So right now, we're going to have a kick out to the wing and pause it and look at how many Carolina defenders are standing in the paint, looking at the wing and not doing anything about it. Seth Trimble wants to go out there, but he's like, you know what? I'm just going to force him to make that shot, and that's going to be an easy triple for NC State. So there's 4 Carolina defenders all standing around, and no one wants to guard the wing. This looks like one of my fraternity cocktails when everyone's standing around talking to each other. The only difference between this and a cocktail is no one is communicating. The defense must space out and communicate. If there's no communication, this is what's going to happen. Another example of bad transition defense is RJ Davis, the quickest player on the floor, and Armando Bacot, the tallest player on the floor, are both getting trailed by Casey Morsel, and there's just no effort here. RJ Davis is just giving this easy layup to Morsel, and that couldn't have been easier. I want everyone to see the amount of time remaining, 15 minutes and 50 seconds. There's no reason for a team to be giving little effort 4 minutes into a game. Next play, we have Caleb Love bringing the ball up the floor, doing what he does on offense. He's the most talented player for Carolina. Every time they step on the floor, he gets a foul. Refs don't call it, but what does Caleb do? Caleb trails the entire defense, lets the point get up top, and then that's an easy basket for NC State. Pete Nance is not a perimeter defender. NC State gets the shot off easy. And that's another 3. If it wasn't for transition defense on that play, UNC would have been able to stop that point and would not have been able to get a shot off. The Wolfpack made a lot of good shots down the stretch, but it would have been a much closer game if not for key hustle plays at the beginning of the game. This team has done a lot for the Carolina community, and we'll never forget how well they played on last season's March Madness run. However, they're not showing their potential right now, and potential starts with great defense. Jasmine?
Basketball analyst Landon Elliott, always bringing the truth. Thanks. Coming off a loss to not our rival NC State, the number 19 ranked women's team was back in Carmichael Arena Sunday to host Wake Forest. The Heels started off hot with early baskets like this jumper from Deja Kelly. They also passed well as Anya Poole is able to work the ball into the center for Alexandria Zelaya to finish. After 2 hard-fought quarters, Carolina led 40-36 going into half. In the second half, the Tar Heels kept their foot on the gas with every player scoring at least 2 points and having at least 2 rebounds. Deja Kelly was a standout player in the game as she tallied 24 points. The Tar Heels took the dub 71-58 and improved their record to 19-8.
Fun to see them get better. Obviously really grateful for the leadership of these two getting us through that. Number 10, on to the next.
Looking to continue its regular season dominance, the UNC women's lacrosse team hosted number 7 Florida on Saturday in an early season top 10 clash. After both teams failed to score for the first half of the opening quarter, UNC got on the board first with this goal by Marissa White. Junior Riley Casey has herself a day leading the Heels with 3 goals and adding 2 assists. UNC went into halftime up 6-0, marking the Gators' first scoreless half since the team's first season, 13 years ago. Despite surrendering 3 quick goals out of halftime to the Gators, Marissa White regained the momentum for the Heels with this goal to put the game out of reach. Carolina went on to secure the victory by a final score of 12-5, marking its 43rd consecutive regular season victory, tied as the 3rd longest streak in NCAA history.
I love to see how we responded to that pressure. I think in some areas we responded really well. In other areas we need to do better. But, anytime we can play a great opponent, we're going to learn something about ourselves. The good, the great, and the ugly.
With more about Carolina's win against Florida, here's women's lacrosse analyst Caroline Yaffa. Caroline?
Olivia, defense wins championships, and with a loss of 70% of their offense, it becomes even more crucial if the team hopes to get back to the national championship. The keys are playing together, new leadership, and the freshmen really stepping up. With that being said, after being 6-0 at halftime, Coach Levy wasn't very pleased with the defending champs. In the 3rd quarter, the Heels gave up 3 goals, and in Levy's words, for absolutely no reason. It was uncharacteristic. They gave up 2 goals on turnovers off the center draw and 3 at the 8-meter. This play built up Florida's momentum. Sophie Student loses the ball straight from the draw, and Gator Emily Heller runs up the floor, and you can see right here, Emily Knowles, Brooklyn Walker-Welch, Julia Dorsey, and Gabby Hall, all defending champs. So we know this is a talented defensive line. Couldn't stop Emily Heller running and doing the spin move on a 4-on-1 to put the Florida Gators on the map. On this play directly after, Hall and Alicia Nicholas forced a turnover that proves the uncharacteristic behavior Levy was talking about. The ball got into the wrong player's hands. So if you remember on Friday, I said that we needed to watch out for Danielle Pavanelli. She had 6 goals when UNC played UF in 2022, and here she is with a clear opportunity to score. So we're about to see this play coming up that Hall passes back to Nicholas right here. She doesn't see an open gap. Nicholas tries to pass back to Hall, but she can't, fumbles the ball. Danielle Pavanelli tries to go for the layup. She can't, but she looks and she sees Emma Lapinto running in front of the goal, and Emma Lapinto scores to give Florida that momentum, and they scored 4 goals after that. Obviously, the Heels came out with a win from stellar performances by 9 Tar Heels scoring the 12 Carolina goals. But with a hard season coming up, there is still a lot of improvement. Olivia?
You're right, Caroline. Defense does win championships. With this win, what do you think is different about this squad, and what can we expect in the coming weeks?
Well, Olivia, Saturday's game was truly something special and a huge team effort. So far this season with 7 different Heels scoring against JMU, 8 against Liberty, and 9 versus the 7th-ranked Gators, the Heels are proving that their roster really goes deep. Carolina has a tough slate of games ahead. They have 3 matchups coming up against top-ranked opponents, with 2 of them on the road. And as I said, it's about playing together, new leadership, and the freshmen really stepping up.
That's women's lacrosse analyst Caroline Yaffa. Thanks, Caroline.
On Sunday, the number 19 ranked men's lacrosse team headed to Columbus to square off against the number 10 Ohio State Buckeyes. The Heels kept it consistent in the first half, scoring 2 goals each in the first and second quarters, including this goal by Logan McGovern, marking his 6th goal of the season. Carolina led 4-2 at the half. However, the momentum shifted toward the Buckeyes in the second half as UNC was left scoreless in the 3rd quarter. The 4th quarter was electric for Ohio State, and the Buckeyes scored 5 goals, like this one by Richie LaCalandra, where Ohio State weaved its pass through the UNC defense. Ohio State defeated the Heels 8-5.
On Friday, UNC Wrestling hosted 8th-ranked NC State in the regular season finale at Carmichael Arena. UNC got a couple of quality wins by decision, especially from Austin O'Connor, who earned himself a 2nd consecutive top 10 victory with his win against number 7 Ed Scott, ending his regular season with a perfect 16-0 record. Unfortunately for the Heels, NC State took 8 of the 10 matches as Carolina falls 28-6. UNC head coach Coleman Scott says the team didn't have a great performance overall, and now his focus is on the ACC tournament. UNC also has one female wrestler, Marisol Nugent, who has helped pave the way for other girls in the sport. And recently, a big change in legislation has come for high school female wrestlers in the state of North Carolina.
Reagan Smith, a senior from Hickory Ridge High School in Harrisburg, North Carolina, has been shattering stereotypes and making history her entire life as a trailblazer in an up-and-coming sport, female wrestling. For most of her career as one of the only girls on her team and in her weight class, Smith was forced to wrestle boys and was struggling to find success on the mat.
And I'd maybe get a win here or there. And I was still trying to put the pieces together on how to wrestle and the fundamentals on the sport.
Entering her sophomore year of high school, Reagan knew she needed to improve, and something needed to change. She spent time in the gym getting stronger, focusing on maintaining her weight, and eventually had the opportunity to wrestle another girl.
Say sophomore year, I started wrestling girls, and it was a big change. I was winning. I found against girls, I'm a lot stronger.
Reagan attributes her path to becoming one of the best female wrestlers in the state to the relationship she has formed with her coach, Blake Barber.
And watching her grow from a awkward freshman into the young woman she's becoming, it's really cool to experience life with her. And I've never had a younger sister, never had any cousins. So growing with her through her life, me becoming into an adult that I am, it's been really cool to share this moment with her through wrestling as the journey.
The ability to wrestle other young women led to more accomplishments on the mat, but also propelled the growth of Reagan's confidence and has allowed her to become a leader among her team and the female wrestling community across North Carolina.
I hope that the sanctioning of the sport and them seeing more girls at their weight and more girls succeeding over time, it will help.
Female wrestling will be an official sanctioned sport in North Carolina starting in the fall for the 2023-2024 school year. While Reagan won't be able to reap the benefits of the sanction at the high school level, her mom, Ashley Smith, reinforced just how much it means to the growth of the sport.
Her first 2 years, she only wrestled boys, and this is such a blessing how things have just come along in the state of North Carolina. We can't be more thankful for what's come and what this has done for women's sports.
Blake echoed this same sentiment as he reflected on the future of wrestling at the high school level.
Well, I think it's an awesome step, and women's wrestling is going to be the biggest growing sport in the country in the next 3 or 4 years. So I think North Carolina stepping up and doing that is just absolutely awesome.
Reagan has accepted an offer to wrestle in college at the University of Mount Olive. And while she's looking forward to continuing her career at the collegiate level, she has already made plans with Blake to return to Hickory Ridge to coach the next group of female wrestlers at her high school. 12th ranked UNC baseball opened the season on Friday against Seton Hall. It was a chilly day at Boshamer Stadium and a slow start for the Tar Heels. They scored 2 runs in the 4th and 5th innings and took the lead in the 6th. The Heels gave up 3 runs in the 8th inning and took the L 10-8. The graduate senior Will Sandy pitched the first 3 innings, and he was able to retire this Seton Hall player after an excellent throw from second baseman Austin Hawk and first baseman Hunter Stokely. Cameron Padgett relieved Will Sandy and retired 12 out of the 15 at-bat attempts. Padgett pitched this pop fly in center field in the 3rd inning. The ball was caught by center fielder Vance Honeycutt. Seton Hall got out to an early 2-0 lead, but an RBI from Austin Hawk got the scoreboard rolling for the Heels in the 3rd inning. Hawk hit a sac fly to right field, bringing in Tomas Frick from 3rd base to put the Tar Heels on the board. The Heels would go on to run the table in the 3rd and 4th innings and win 11-2 on Saturday. The Tar Heels look to take the opening series on Sunday. Their first hit came with a bang in the 2nd inning as Jackson Vanderbrake smashed a 3-run homer over the field wall. UNC would add another run in the inning, but found trouble in the 4th. With 2 runs already scored, Dalton Pence entered the game in relief and worked out of the jam with this strikeout. The Tar Heels entered the 9th up 4-2, and Ben Peterson earned the save by shutting down the Pirates in order. UNC takes the series 2-1.
There were some things that we needed to do better, and we knew that. But it wasn't a negative feel at all. You know, we knew we were going to come back the next day and do our thing, and we did that for yesterday and today. And that's what you got to do. You're going to get punched, and you just got to come back.
The Tar Heels return to the Bosch on Tuesday to face Radford. And Jasmine, it's always good to get the opening weekend win, especially at home. But I think the difference on Friday was the pitching. You know, you can't get to Omaha without deep pitching. And the Heels don't have Davis Palermo anymore to come in every day and be that consistent guy from the bullpen. So I think they're going to need to focus on cleaning that up because they have the power at the plate.
Definitely. And the great thing about baseball season is that it's a long road to Omaha. We're just at the beginning. I think if they can work on those issues, they can really get back to the Super Regionals again this year.
Yes, I agree. Super Regional and then Omaha.
For sure. On the first day of the ACC Big Ten Softball Challenge, UNC faced Minnesota. In the bottom of the second inning, the Tar Heels scored, thanks to this RBI from Bree Stubbs. Lily Bax had a stellar outing in the circle, pitching a shutout. The Heels won 1-0. On Saturday, Carolina again faced Minnesota in the first game of a doubleheader. In the top of the fifth, the Heels found themselves trailing 5-3 until this sacrifice bunt by Abby Settlemeyer led to a throwing error that sparked a 2-run rally. With this game tied in the top half of the final inning, Settlemeyer came up huge again, this time with a 3-run moonshot to put the Heels up 8-5. Carolina ended up winning 10-5, sweeping the Gophers in the ACC Big Ten Challenge. The second game of the doubleheader, fans braced the cold to watch the Heels take on number 23 Maryland. Carolina struck first with an RBI single off the bat of Kirsten Lisea, scoring Skylar Brooks, and putting the Heels up 1-0 in the bottom of the first. In the top of the third, Maryland catcher Amelia Leck cranked this 2-run home run off a fastball from Bailey McCakin to make it 2-1, and from there it was all the Terps. Carolina tried to claw back, but the bats fell silent as Maryland won 5-3. In the second game, UNC was up 3-1 after the fourth. The Terps then answered with 3 more runs of their own in the next inning, and Carolina fell 4-3.
The University of National Champions competed for another national title over the weekend, and this time it was with the club squash team. Our own Caroline Routh has the story.
2 years. That's all it took for sophomores Levi Mellon and Isaac Davis to go from picking up a squash racket for the first time to competing for a national title.
A lot of members of the club squash team never played the sport before college. Today, I'm going to try it out. Check me out on the courts.
No. Davis and Mellon picked up the sport much quicker than I did. They learned not only how to play, but also how to play together.
I'd say Isaac is the energy guy on the team. He's the culture guy. He keeps the energy going during practices and matches. He keeps us laughing in our long bus rides up to tournaments, and he really just makes us want to come to squash every day.
Davis grew up on a farm in the mountains in the western part of the state.
We have 5 acres near Asheville, North Carolina. And we have a few goats, a few chickens, and we have a couple of farm dogs as well.
Some of the lessons he learned growing up on the farm have made Davis a better squash player.
Elbow grease is a good lesson I've learned. When I was building the chicken coop, it takes a long time and you have to work with hammers, nails, fencing, and it's pretty rugged. And while squash isn't rugged by any sense of the word, there's a lot of sweat that goes into the sport and a lot of practice that it takes to actually get good.
Davis and Mellon brought their signature elbow grease and excitement to Philly as they beat UVA at Nationals this past weekend. I'm Caroline Routh, reporting.
One day, hopefully, UNC can add a squash to the list of national titles. The UNC swimming and diving teams had a strong showing at the ACC Championships in Greensboro. Junior Aranza Vasquez swept the meet in diving, earning gold on the women's 1 meter, 3 meter, and platform, which earned her most outstanding diver recognition. The women tallied 813 points in the 5-day competition to finish 4th, while the men's team took 8th overall with 514 points.
Hoping to follow in the footsteps of the women's team, the UNC men's tennis team traveled to Illinois on Friday to face off against USC in the first round of the ITA Team Indoor Championship. The Heels put on a stellar showing in doubles to take the early 1-0 advantage. Unfortunately for Carolina, singles competition was a completely different story. The Trojans outclassed the Heels, starting with the very first match, in which Brian Cernoch fell in straight sets. Despite Ryan Segerman winning the opening set, he was unable to finish the job. The Heels were swept by the Trojans in single competition en route to a lopsided 4-1 defeat that knocked them out of championship contention. On Saturday, the Heels looked to bounce back against number 16 Florida. Once again, Carolina secured the early doubles point with a pair of 6-2 wins. In singles, Cernoch and Anush Watane won close two-set matches to put the Heels on the brink of victory. And then on court 3, Will Jansen loaded up his power serve to clinch the match for the Heels, chomping down the Gators 4-2. On Sunday, the Heels faced the South Carolina Gamecocks. Carolina started the meet strong, winning the doubles point 6-3 in both matches. In singles, Peter Murphy and Carl Poling gained the Tar Heels' last 2 points, winning their singles matches. But the Tar Heels fell to the Gamecocks 4-3.
On Saturday, the UNC men's track and field team traveled to Notre Dame for the Alex Wilson Invitational to compete in the 4,000-meter medley relay. Carolina tied Wisconsin for first in the event, running 9 minutes, 19.99 seconds, which is an ACC record and the 5th fastest time in NCAA history. Ethan Strand ran the last leg for the Heels, running 3 minutes and 53.2 seconds in the final 1,600 meters. On Sunday afternoon, the UNC gymnastics team visited Pitt. The Heels walked away with a commanding win by earning the top score in each of the 4 rotations. After the victory, the Tar Heels increased their overall record to 12-4 and remain the only unbeaten team competing in the East Atlantic Gymnastics League with a perfect 5-0 record. Lolly Dekanoidze won the individual titles on bars and vault for Carolina, while Julia Noer had another stellar performance, receiving the highest score on floor.
Spring sports are back, and that includes women's club rugby. Here's Dylan Genter with the story.
No experience necessary is listed on the UNC women's rugby team's website. For those unfamiliar with this nationally recognized club team but has an alum on the Team USA roster, it might come as a surprise that many of their captains didn't begin playing until college.
I actually joined the team my freshman year. Never played rugby before, only heard of it like the summer before. So I DM'd the Instagram account and I was like, hey, I'm interested in the sport in general. Like, do y'all do tryouts? And she DM'd me back right away. I was like, come to practice tonight. You don't need cleats, you don't need anything, bring water, you're good.
She's now been a part of UNC's rugby program for 4 years, finishing up her college career as offense captain after her teammates nominated her for the position.
It means a lot to me because I love this team. So like being nominated captain, like just really gratified me and being like, people see how much I love this team and I get to make an impact on like a bigger level.
She's always there to lend a helping hand. And it's really been like one of the best, like the best things for me on the team because she plays in a similar position as me. So she's really been there to like help me learn, but also be there for like a friend and support when they need it.
With 10 seniors graduating this spring, UNC women's rugby hopes to rope in some new players, even those who might be hesitant.
It's not something that you should be scared of because of contact or like the sport itself. So as long as you're willing to try, we're willing to teach.
I'm Dylan Gettner reporting.
Women's rugby is an extremely physical sport. It's a lot like football, just without the pads. So it's really cool to see the women at UNC have an opportunity to excel on the field like this.
It is. It's such a tough sport, and they're out there killing it, it looks like. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports Extra. We'll be back on Friday with a preview of another exciting weekend in Carolina athletics.